Hi, this is Mary Baca with Remotely Unique, coming to you from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm in the studio today with Mike Suarez, who is our producer, and here to do kind of a follow-up from last week's topic. Last week I talked about resilience, and today I'm going to talk about gratitude. And 'tis the season, right? Because next week is Thanksgiving. And so that's something that automatically comes into play. I think sometimes people go through the holidays, including Thanksgiving, and they don't really stop and think about the meaning of all of that. But hopefully this show will bring your attention to being thankful. And I think one of the things that people don't understand about gratitude is that it's really an action. That it's also a quality, people that are grateful are thankful, but that it also, you can really get a lot from it if you practice gratitude. And one of the things I want to say is that, especially now, going through the pandemic, that a lot of counseling agencies, including mine, have long wait lists. And so people are waiting to get in, and working on gratitude can open up a chapter or a book that you can really work on and find some benefit from. So you might ask yourself, well, how is working on gratitude beneficial? One of the ways is it takes you out of that negative thinking mode. One of the techniques that I practice myself, and I don't do it every day, I'm not going to lie, but I do it at least several times a week, and I do it throughout the day, is practice being grateful. So for example, before I get out of bed in the morning, I'll make myself think of 3 things that I'm grateful for. And that helps, from thinking about negative things. When I was doing my research on this, I saw a study that had looked at nearly 300 college students who were seeking help for mental health issues. And they started to look at people. They had some of the people practice gratitude, like they started having some of them write journals. They had others start, writing gratitude letters. And then they had a third control group that didn't do anything other than receive counseling. And then they measured the improvement that all the 3 groups made. And what they found was that people who wrote gratitude letters, that was really helpful. But what really was helpful is that the reason why that was helpful is because people wrote about the positive and didn't mention negative. So I'll tell you what I mean by that is if you journal and you're trying to journal about changing your thinking from negative to being grateful, you're still going to be using negative words in what you write. And what this study found is that people seem to just benefit and improve more when they stuck to using positive words. So if you write a gratitude letter to somebody, then the whole thing is about why you're grateful for them and the qualities that you want to highlight in your letter to them. And so it ends up just being this compilation of positive things. And they found that those college students, from the sample size that they took, made quite a bit of improvement in their mental health. So the holidays, it's not like a Hallmark card. Many people struggle during the holidays. A lot of times people are forced, and I'll use those wording because there's expectations to spend time around the family. And a lot of times people have a really hard time with that. So this is a great season, great time period to really try to practice the things that you can be grateful for, whether they're people, places, or things. You can always find something to be grateful for. The opposite is when you're not practicing gratitude, it's too easy to get stuck. And I think that's the important operative word there, is to get stuck in the emotion and the toxicity of, negative emotion. You can see it around you, or I know I can, see around myself, in the world and locally, how so many people are so negative in their thinking and their attitude and their approaches. And it's toxic. It's like stepping in a pool of water, that is not a good thing. And so you can easily find yourself getting sucked into things. I know one of the things I try to do is when I find myself, because, I'm a human being just like anybody else, I'll find myself saying something negative, like even if I'm driving on the road, and it just seems like there's so much traffic these days that I'll get frustrated and I'll, say something to myself about a driver, and I try to replace that with, well, poor things, they probably have a lot of issues. I'm grateful for the life that I have. And I truly can say that. Like I'm not just selling that, I truly am grateful. I look for the things to be grateful for, including like some of the people that I've met on Facebook even. I've joined some groups on Facebook that are gratitude kinds of themed groups, and that's another thing you can do as well, is be around more people that are like that. Gratitude helps even if you don't share it. That's the great thing, is you don't have to even talk to anybody about that you're working on gratitude. It can be something that you just choose to do yourself. It doesn't have to be that you spread it. I mean, I think it's a great thing to share with people, but that's not the ideal situation for some. And so it's something you can totally just start working with on your own. To lay in bed every morning and think about three things you're grateful for. Doesn't have to involve anybody else. You don't have to even tell anybody that you're doing that. You don't have to say those things out loud. You can totally just think them in your head, and they're still going to have quite a bit of power with them. One of the things that came up in the article that I read is that the benefits of gratitude do take time. So, I think a lot of people are very impatient with things improving in their life, and that's why people will do things like drink, because they get immediate relief from things, or they'll go and do some other kind of avoidant behavior, even watching a movie, for example, instead of dealing with what's going on in their life. People are just not very focused on dealing with things. So with gratitude, it's one of those things where it takes time. Any kind of practice that you're implementing to help try to change things, to change your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, take time. It's a process. And so it requires patience, and sometimes people do not have patience. They want a quick fix. And all of us would like a quick fix, for things, but it doesn't always work that way. In fact, most often it doesn't work that way. So be patient with it. If you try to do some of these things like write a gratitude letter, or to name 3 positive or things you're grateful for in the morning, gratitude actually has lasting effects on the brain, and I'll tell you specifically what I mean by that. So they've even done some studies like taking MRIs of people's brains while they're paying it forward, doing some kind of activity that pays it forward, and they have found that there has been changes in people's brain for the better, however they measure that, but through MRIs, when they're engaging in tasks like that. And so that was kind of cool to actually read that practicing gratitude actually has a scientifically proved benefit to it. So for example, another example, when people felt more grateful, their brain activity was distinct from brain activity related to guilt and the desire to help a cause. So what they did is they took people and they had them think about things that they felt guilty for, and notice the brain scans of people when they were engaging in that. And then they had people think about just the desire to donate and be a help to a worthy cause, and did brain scans on that. And so that's really interesting. They found that there was greater neural sensitivity in the medial prefrontal cortex of the brain. So that's an area of the brain that's often associated with learning and decision making. And they found that, that gratitude actually improved that area, the neural pathways, and the neural sensitivity. So all the brain activity that goes on was heightened and improved when the person engaged in being grateful. So I thought that was really cool. There was another part of the brain too that was impacted. The medial prefrontal, and then I'm not seeing it, but I thought that was really interesting. And the article is from Greater Good, Berkeley Education. And so if you want to look it up, the article is How Gratitude Changes You and Your Brain, which hopefully will motivate you to maybe engage in this practice and just experience it. That's what I could say from my own experience. I know it's like meditating. When I take the time to meditate, my day goes so much better and so much differently. And I would say the same about gratitude, that when I wake up first thing in the morning and I have those thoughts of gratitude on my mind, that I start my day with, it's like it just seems to really improve how my day goes. Probably because I then from the get-go, kind of set that course in motion of how I'm going to choose to look at something. Because really when you're grateful, you really have the choice of not seeing something as, something that you should be grateful for, or can be grateful for. So a lot of choice goes into it. One of the things you can do, and I think I kind of mentioned it, is if you have a negative thought, is substitute it with something you're grateful for, going back to the driving example that I gave. And that's very powerful. It doesn't just, it changes, like you'll even feel a shift in your body language. You'll feel a shift in your thoughts and your emotions. If you do it, you will just feel, the shifting to where you'll be like, you know what, that feels so much better. I feel so much better after thinking about 3 things that I'm grateful for. So maybe you could set that goal for this next week for Thanksgiving, and maybe even a lot of families will say prayers and things like that, during Thanksgiving dinner or lunch, is mention 3 things that you're grateful for. Add that, contribute that into the mix of whatever conversation you're having with your family and friends, and see how people respond to that, how people on the receiving end respond when you tell them that you're grateful for their friendship, or you're grateful for the meal that they prepared. But really, really not just kind of saying it like in passing, but really looking at them, and really making that connection as you express it. Let me know how that goes. I'll be interested to see how that goes, and I'll be doing that myself too. You'll be able to find this segment. Today was short and sweet, but very impactful, especially if you practice it. But you can find this segment of our show on iTunes, Spotify, remotely-unique, YouTube, remotely-unique.com. And I also wanted to mention that we're going to be taking a month off, the month of December off, for our podcast show, and just kind of enjoy the holidays. But we'll be back in January, and in January we're going to start where we will take calls or questions from our audience and our viewers. So that should be really a lot of fun. So that'll be an opportunity for any of you that, if you have questions or you want to hear more or talk about something, you'll have the opportunity to do that. So we'll be releasing more details about that. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks for now. Bye-bye.